The royal study fell silent. The antique clock ticked while a small crown glinted on the desk. "Sign it, maid," the matriarch ordered, sliding a marriage contract toward the black housekeeper, Emma. "For the family's honor, you'll wed the heir." Her hands shook as nobles snickered. "He can't even stand at the altar." What Emma didn't know was that the man they mocked, rolling in moments later in a sleek wheelchair, was the disabled billionaire who owned half the kingdom. He would set the crown aside, open a velvet ring box, and say the words that would ruin their cruelty, and begin her greatest dream: "I choose her over the throne." But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Emma Johnson stood frozen, her hands clutching the cleaning cloth she had been using moments earlier. The storm outside rattled the windows of the study, but the real tempest was brewing inside her mind. "Mrs. Blackwood, I don't understand," Emma finally managed to say. "You want me to marry your grandson?" Victoria's perfectly manicured hand tapped the documents. "It's a simple arrangement. You need money for your mother's kidney treatments. We need Matthew's fortune to stay within family control." Emma glanced toward the corner of the room where Matthew Blackwood sat silently in his wheelchair, his eyes fixed on the floor. The 34-year-old tech entrepreneur hadn't said a word since Emma had been summoned to the study. "This is crazy," Emma whispered. "I'm your housekeeper." "And you've been an excellent one for 3 years," Victoria replied, "which is why you're perfect for this role. You're intelligent, discreet, and you understand your place." Emma had arrived at the grand Blackwood estate in Boston's Beacon Hill neighborhood before sunrise that morning, just as she had done every day since taking this job. At 25 years old, she had put her own dreams on hold when her mother's kidney disease had worsened. The Blackwood position paid better than most, and Emma needed every dollar for her mother's treatments. "Mrs. Blackwood, there must be another way," Emma said, her voice stronger now. "I can't just marry someone I barely know." Victoria stood, her 72 years doing nothing to diminish her commanding presence. "There is no other way. The family finances are not what they once were. Only Matthew's separate technology company remains profitable." "Then why doesn't Matthew just help the family directly?" Emma asked, looking toward him again. For the first time, Matthew spoke. "My company is mine. I built it while they mocked my efforts." His voice was quiet but firm. Victoria's lips tightened. "Family resources should remain under family control. Matthew rarely dates due to his condition. This arrangement benefits everyone." Emma thought of her mother, whose next treatment was scheduled in just 4 days. The insurance had denied coverage again, and the treatment cost more than Emma made in 2 months. "May I speak with Matthew alone?" Emma asked. Victoria hesitated, then nodded curtly. 5 minutes. The papers need to be signed tonight." After Victoria closed the door behind her, silence filled the room. Rain pounded against the windows as Emma moved closer to Matthew. "Did you agree to this?" she asked. Matthew finally looked up at her. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She's controlled everything my entire life." He gestured toward his legs. "After the accident when I was 12, everyone treated me like I was broken. Building my company was the only thing that was truly mine. And now she wants to control that too," Emma said, understanding dawning. "Through you," Matthew confirmed. "A housekeeper would never be accepted in Boston society, making divorce unlikely. The family gets access to my billions and you—" "Get medical care for my mother," Emma finished. "This is wrong on so many levels." "I know." Matthew's blue eyes met hers directly. "But I also know about your mother. Victoria made sure I knew exactly how desperate your situation is." Emma felt tears threatening. "That's not fair." "Nothing about my grandmother is fair," Matthew said quietly. "I wish I had the courage to stand against her, but I don't. Not yet." Emma walked to the window, watching lightning split the dark sky. "My mother is all I have. She worked 3 jobs to raise me after my father left. Now she can barely get out of bed some days." "I'm sorry," Matthew said. Emma turned back to him. "If I sign these papers, what happens exactly?" "A courthouse wedding tomorrow. You'll move into my wing of the house, separate bedrooms," he added quickly. "You'll get an allowance and your mother gets the best medical care in Boston." "And what do you get?" Emma asked. Matthew's laugh was hollow. "Peace from my grandmother's constant pressure, and a wife who has no illusions about what this marriage is." Victoria knocked once before re-entering. "Your time is up. Emma, what is your decision?" Emma looked at the contract on the desk. She thought of her mother's face, growing thinner each week. She thought of the hospital bills piling up on their small kitchen table in Dorchester. "If I sign, my mother gets treatment immediately, starting tomorrow?" Emma asked. "I'll make the arrangements tonight," Victoria confirmed. "The finest specialists at Boston Memorial." Emma took a deep breath and picked up the pen. "I'll need to see those arrangements in writing, added to this contract." Victoria's eyebrows rose slightly, but she nodded to the family lawyer hovering in the doorway. "Add it." 20 minutes later, Emma signed her name on the final page. Each stroke of the pen felt like she was signing away another piece of her freedom. But her mother would live. That was what mattered. "Welcome to the family, Emma," Victoria said without warmth. "The ceremony will be at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Samuel will drive you." As Emma left the study, she pulled out her phone to call her mother. How could she possibly explain this? Her fingers trembled as she dialed. "Mom? It's me. I have some news. Things are going to get better with your treatments." "Emma, that's wonderful. How did you manage that?" Her mother's voice, though weak, filled with hope. Emma leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. I got a promotion. The Blackwoods are being very generous." That night, in her small room in the staff quarters, Emma stared at the ceiling. Rain continued to lash against her window as the storm refused to break. Tomorrow she would no longer be Emma Johnson, housekeeper. She would be Emma Blackwood, wife of a billionaire, still trapped in service to this family. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Matthew. "I'm sorry it came to this. I promise your mother will get the best care possible." Emma typed back, "Thank you. I guess we're both trapped now." She set her alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning out of habit, then realized she wouldn't be cleaning the mansion tomorrow. Instead, she would be getting married in it. As Emma finally drifted towards sleep, she realized the most disturbing part of this entire bizarre situation. If she had to make the choice again, knowing her mother would get the care she needed, she would still sign those papers. Some sacrifices were worth making, even if they cost you your freedom. Emma woke up before her alarm, her mind already racing with thoughts about the day ahead. In just a few hours, she would be getting married. Not in a beautiful church with friends and family, but in a cold courthouse with only legal papers to mark the occasion. The morning passed in a blur. Samuel Carter, Victoria's financial advisor, drove Emma to the downtown Boston courthouse in a sleek black car with tinted windows. Emma wore a simple blue dress she had bought on sale last year. No white gown, no flowers, no bridesmaids. Matthew was already waiting inside the courthouse, sitting in his wheelchair beside Victoria and the family lawyer. His face showed no emotion as Emma walked in. "You're late," Victoria said, checking her gold watch. "The judge has a busy schedule." "I'm sorry," Emma replied automatically, though she was actually 5 minutes early. The ceremony lasted less than 10 minutes. The judge, an older man who seemed bored with the proceedings, barely looked at them as he recited the legal words. When it came time for the rings, the lawyer handed Matthew a simple gold band for Emma. No one had thought to get a ring for Matthew. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the judge said flatly, already reaching for the next case file on his desk. Matthew looked up at Emma. "I guess that's it," he said quietly. On the drive back to the Blackwood estate, Victoria sat between Emma and Matthew in the car's back seat. "The marriage certificate will be filed today," Victoria explained. "Samuel will keep the original in the family safe. We'll announce the marriage publicly when the timing is right." "And when will that be?" Emma asked. "When I decide," Victoria replied. "For now, we need to establish your new role in the household." Back at the mansion, Emma packed her few belongings from the staff quarters. Her clothes barely filled one suitcase. She added a framed photo of her mother, a worn paperback novel, and a small wooden box containing her father's watch, the only thing he'd left behind. As Emma wheeled her suitcase down the hallway toward Matthew's wing, she noticed other staff members watching her, whispering behind their hands. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. Matthew's wing of the mansion was modern compared to the rest of the house. Bright artwork hung on walls painted in soft colors, and the furniture looked comfortable rather than antique. "This will be your room," Matthew said, opening a door to reveal a bedroom 3 times the size of her staff quarters. "The bathroom is through there. My room is at the end of the hall." "Thank you," Emma said, not knowing what else to say to her new husband. "I'll be in my office most of the day," Matthew added, already turning his wheelchair toward the door. "Feel free to settle in." Later that afternoon, Victoria gathered the household staff in the main living room. Emma stood uncomfortably beside Matthew as Victoria made her announcement. "As you may have heard, Matthew and Emma were married this morning," Victoria said to the assembled staff. "Emma will now be living in Matthew's wing of the house as his wife." The staff members nodded politely, though Emma could see the confusion on their faces. "However," Victoria continued, "Emma will still be responsible for overseeing the household cleaning schedules and staff rotations. She'll report to me directly, as always." Emma felt her face grow hot again. She was being introduced as Matthew's wife while simultaneously being told she was still the housekeeper. "Congratulations, Mrs. Blackwood," Mrs. Patterson, the cook, said afterward, the title sounding strange to Emma's ears. That evening, Emma experienced her first dinner as a Blackwood family member. She sat beside Matthew at the long dining table, wearing one of her 2 nice dresses. Victoria sat at the head of the table with Samuel Carter as the only other guest. "Emma, the silver needs polishing before the garden club visits next week," Victoria said between bites of salmon. "Yes, Mrs. Blackwood," Emma replied automatically. "You should call her Victoria now," Matthew said quietly. "Your family." Victoria's lips tightened. "That won't be necessary yet. Emma understands her position." After dinner, Emma retreated to her new room and called her mother. "Mom? How are you feeling?" "Much better today," her mother replied. "The nurse from Boston Memorial came by to discuss my new treatment schedule. Emma, how on earth did you arrange this? They're talking about specialized treatments I've never had access to before." Emma swallowed hard. "I told you I got a promotion. The Blackwoods are being very generous." "Well, tell them thank you from me. The doctor says with this new treatment plan I might actually get on the transplant list." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "That's wonderful, Mom. And how about you? Are they treating you well with this new position?" "Everything's fine," Emma lied. "I need to go now. I'll visit you soon." The next morning, Emma woke early out of habit. She dressed in simple clothes and found herself cleaning Matthew's unused living room before she even realized what she was doing. "You don't have to do that," Matthew said, surprising her as he wheeled into the room. Emma straightened up, embarrassed. "Force of habit, I guess." "We should talk about how this is going to work," Matthew said. "Would you like to have breakfast?" They sat at a small table in Matthew's kitchen area. Emma couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten a meal without serving others first. "I'm sorry about how my grandmother is handling this," Matthew said, spreading jam on his toast. "She's set in her ways." "It's fine," Emma said, though it wasn't. "As long as my mother gets her treatments. She will. I've made sure of it personally." They ate in awkward silence until Matthew checked his watch. "I have a video conference in 10 minutes. We'll talk more later." Matthew spent the entire day in his office. Through the closed door, Emma could hear him speaking confidently to business associates, sounding nothing like the quiet man who barely spoke at family dinners. While dusting bookshelves in Matthew's study, Emma accidentally knocked over a stack of magazines. As she picked them up, she noticed they were business publications with Matthew on the covers. "Tech Genius Transforms Industry," one headline read. Another called him the Wheelchair Warrior of Wall Street. Emma quickly replaced them in the drawer where they'd been hidden. Later that week, Rebecca Blackwood, Matthew's cousin, arrived for lunch. With her designer clothes and perfect blonde hair, she looked Emma up and down with undisguised disdain. "So you're the housekeeper who married up," Rebecca said when Victoria stepped away to take a phone call. "How convenient for you." Emma said nothing, focusing on serving the soup. "Becca, don't," Matthew said quietly. "What? I'm just making conversation with your wife." The way Rebecca said "wife" made it sound like a joke. "Victoria says she's still handling the household staff. Unusual arrangement, isn't it?" Matthew stared at his soup. "Emma, this is delicious." "I didn't make it," Emma said. "Mrs. Patterson did." Rebecca laughed. "Oh, this is going to be entertaining." The following day, Emma met her friend Jasmine at a cafe several blocks from the Blackwood estate. It was her first time leaving the mansion since the wedding. "Girl, where have you been?" Jasmine asked. "I've been texting you for days." "I've been busy," Emma said. "Things are changing at work." "What kind of changes? You look stressed." Emma took a deep breath. "I got married." "You what?" Jasmine nearly knocked over her coffee. "To who? When? Why wasn't I invited?" "It was very sudden," Emma said, twisting her new gold ring. "His name is Matthew. He's one of the Blackwoods." Jasmine's mouth fell open. "You married into the family you work for?" "Emma, that's either a romance novel or a horror story. Which one is it?" "I don't know yet," Emma admitted. "But my mom is getting the medical care she needs now." That night, as Emma prepared for bed in her new room, she overheard Victoria speaking to Samuel in the hallway. "The marriage contract is airtight," Victoria was saying. "If she tries to leave within 5 years, she gets nothing. Meanwhile, we have access to Matthew's company assets through the marital property clauses." "Brilliant move, Victoria," Samuel replied. "The board will be relieved. That boy never understood the importance of keeping control within the family." Emma closed her door quietly, leaning against it as tears filled her eyes. She walked into the enormous bathroom attached to her bedroom and stared at her reflection in the ornate mirror. On the counter lay an expensive silk robe Victoria had sent up that morning, a wedding gift. Emma touched the luxurious fabric, then looked back at her reflection. In this enormous mansion with all its wealth and beauty, she had never felt more trapped. She wasn't a wife. She wasn't even a housekeeper anymore. She was a transaction, a contract, a solution to a Blackwood family problem. Emma dried her tears and hung up the silk robe. This was her reality now. Trapped in a marriage that wasn't real, living in luxury that wasn't hers. She had to find a way to survive in this new life, for her mother's sake if nothing else. 3 weeks passed with Emma and Matthew living separate lives under the same roof. Emma continued cleaning parts of the mansion, including areas of Matthew's wing he rarely used. Matthew spent most days in his office, the door firmly closed as he conducted business over video calls. They occasionally passed each other in hallways, exchanging awkward nods but little conversation. One afternoon, Emma was dusting shelves in Matthew's personal library when she heard the sound of his wheelchair. She turned to see Matthew reaching up toward a high shelf, his fingers inches away from a thick blue book. His face showed frustration as he stretched his arm. Emma watched for a moment, then approached. Instead of reaching for the book herself or asking if he needed help, she simply asked, "Which one do you want?" Matthew looked surprised, then relieved. "The blue one, Corporate Finance and Strategy." Emma pulled it down and handed it to him. "Here you go." "Thank you," Matthew said, taking the book. "Most people either ignore what I'm doing or rush to help before I even ask." "I wouldn't like either of those things," Emma replied. Matthew smiled slightly. "No, I don't suppose you would." He paused, looking at her properly for the first time in weeks. "Do you have time to talk? Actually talk, I mean." They moved to the sitting area of the library. Emma perched on the edge of an armchair, while Matthew positioned his wheelchair across from her. "This situation isn't what either of us would have chosen," Matthew began, "but we're stuck with it, at least for now." "Because of your grandmother," Emma said. Matthew nodded. "Victoria raised me after my parents died. The same car accident that put me in this wheelchair killed them instantly." His voice was matter of fact. "She's controlled everything since I was 12 years old." "And you let her?" Emma observed. "Yes," Matthew admitted. "It was easier than fighting, until I started my company." "Blackwood Innovations," Emma said, remembering the magazine covers she'd found. "You know about that?" "I found some business magazines in your drawer when I was cleaning." Matthew smiled ruefully. "Victoria hates those magazines. She thinks they're undignified. Is that why you hide them?" "Old habits." Matthew shrugged. "My company was the one thing she couldn't control. I built it from my dorm room at MIT while the family laughed at my little computer project. And now it's worth billions," Emma said. "And now Victoria wants to control that too." Matthew's face hardened. "Through you." Emma looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry about that." "Don't be. It's not your fault." Matthew wheeled slightly closer. "How is your mother doing with the new treatments?" "Much better," Emma said, her face brightening. "Her doctor says she's responding well. He thinks she might qualify for a transplant list now." "That's good. I'm glad." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the library door. Victoria entered without waiting for a response. "Matthew, I've scheduled lunch with the Harringtons tomorrow. They're interested in discussing a merger with their tech division." Victoria noticed Emma. "Don't you have work to do? The dining room silver needs polishing before Friday." "We were talking," Matthew said, his voice firmer than Emma had ever heard him speak to his grandmother. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "How nice. Emma, when you've finished your actual duties, please make sure Matthew's navy suit is pressed for tomorrow." After Victoria left, Emma stood. "I should go." "You don't have to," Matthew said. "Yes, I do." Emma straightened her shoulders. "It's fine. This is the arrangement." The next morning, Emma was cleaning Matthew's rarely used formal dining room when she heard raised voices from his office. Without thinking, she opened the door. Inside, Matthew sat facing a large screen filled with faces of business people in suits. He was in the middle of speaking, his voice confident and authoritative. "The fourth quarter projections show a 30% increase in market share. Our new security protocol has already been adopted by 3 major banking systems, with 5 more in final negotiations." Emma tried to back out quietly, but Matthew had already seen her. "Emma, perfect timing," he said smoothly. "Everyone, this is my wife, Emma. Emma, these are our international executives and major investors." The faces on the screen smiled and nodded politely. Emma managed a small wave before closing the door. Later that afternoon, Matthew found her arranging flowers in the main hallway. "I'm sorry about earlier," Emma said. "I didn't mean to interrupt your meeting." "You didn't interrupt," Matthew replied. "You got me out of a tough question about user interface design. After you left, I told them my wife had reminded me of another appointment." Emma smiled despite herself. "Glad to help with your escape." "You know, you don't have to keep doing the flowers and cleaning," Matthew said. "You're supposed to be my wife, not the housekeeper." "According to Victoria, I'm both." Emma placed a final stem in the arrangement. "Besides, what else would I do all day? What would you want to do, if you could choose?" The question caught Emma off guard. No one had asked what she wanted in a very long time. "I used to dream about opening a community center in Dorchester where I grew up," she said, hesitantly. "After-school programs for kids who don't have anywhere safe to go, job training, that kind of thing." "That sounds worthwhile," Matthew said. "Why didn't you pursue it?" "My mom got sick. College plans got put on hold. Bills needed to be paid. Emma shrugged. Life happened. The next day, Emma visited her mother at Boston Memorial Hospital for her treatment. Dr. James Wilson, a kind man with gray at his temples, was reviewing her mother's chart. "The improvement is remarkable, Doctor," Wilson told them. "These new medications are exactly what she needed." After the examination, Doctor, Wilson followed Emma into the hallway. "Mrs. Blackwood," he said quietly, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you all right? You seem stressed." Emma was startled by both his observation and the unfamiliar name. "I'm fine, just adjusting to changes." Dr. Wilson nodded. "I understand your marriage was recent. Quite a life change, I imagine." "You have no idea," Emma murmured. "Well," Dr. Wilson said, "if you ever need someone to talk to, doctor-patient confidentiality extends to families." He handed her his card. "My direct line is on the back." For the first time since her wedding, Emma felt someone was seeing her, not as a housekeeper, not as a solution to a problem, but as a person. That evening, Emma noticed architectural magazines on Matthew's desk when she brought him coffee. One was open to a page about community centers, with certain paragraphs highlighted. "Are you interested in community development?" she asked. Matthew looked slightly embarrassed. "I was researching, after what you said about Dorchester." "Why?" "I thought maybe—" Matthew hesitated. "We're stuck in this situation together, but maybe we could use it to do something good." Before Emma could respond, Matthew's computer chimed with an incoming call. "I need to take this. It's the West Coast team," he said. "But maybe we could continue this conversation over dinner tomorrow? Not here at the house, somewhere else." Emma considered his suggestion. They were legally married. Having dinner together wasn't strange, and for the first time she was curious about the man behind the wheelchair, the businessman who commanded respect from international executives while being dismissed by his own family. "That sounds nice," she said finally. "Good." Matthew smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I know a small Italian place in Cambridge where the food is excellent and nobody knows the Blackwood name." As Emma left his office, Matthew called after her. "Emma, wait! Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? Not here, somewhere else, without my family watching our every move." Emma turned back, meeting his gaze directly. "Yes," she said. "I think I would." The next evening, Emma felt strangely nervous as she got ready for dinner. She chose her nicest dress, a simple navy blue one she'd bought for a friend's wedding last year. It wasn't designer like Rebecca's clothes, but it was the best she had. Matthew was waiting for her in the front hall, looking different in casual clothes, a button-down shirt and no tie. His wheelchair was different too, sleeker and less medical-looking than the one he used around the house. "You look nice," he said when he saw her. "Thank you. So do you." Samuel drove them to Cambridge in silence. The restaurant was small and warm, with checkered tablecloths and soft lighting. As Matthew had promised, no one seemed to recognize him here. "I discovered this place during college," Matthew explained after they were seated. "MIT is just a few blocks away. I used to come here to escape the pressure." "It's nice," Emma said, looking around at the normal people having normal dinners. No one was staring or whispering. "So, tell me about your community center idea," Matthew said after they ordered. "What would it look like if you could build it exactly as you wanted?" Emma hesitated, then began to describe her dream. As she spoke, her voice grew more animated. "Dorchester has so many kids with nowhere to go after school. Their parents are working multiple jobs, just like my mom did. These kids need safe places with computers for homework, maybe some art supplies, people who care if they show up." She leaned forward. "And not just for kids. We need job training programs for adults, resume workshops, interview practice." "You've thought about this a lot," Matthew observed. "Since I was 16, Emma admitted. "My neighbor, Ms. Jenkins, used to watch me after school while my mom worked. She had 10 kids in her apartment most days. She did what she could, but she had so little." Matthew listened intently as Emma continued sharing her ideas. Then he surprised her by telling stories about building his company. "I started coding in high school after the accident. It gave me something to focus on besides physical therapy and pitying looks." He shook his head. "By the time I got to MIT, I had a working prototype for a security algorithm. Everyone told me it wouldn't work, especially my family." "But it did work," Emma said. "Better than even I expected." Matthew smiled. "The first time a major bank licensed my software, Victoria called it playing with computers. When I made my first million, the family called it luck. For 2 hours they talked freely, discovering common ground despite their different backgrounds. Both knew what it meant to be underestimated. Both had sacrificed personal dreams for family obligations. It was after 10 o'clock when they returned to the Blackwood estate. To Emma's surprise, Victoria was waiting in the main living room, still fully dressed despite the late hour. "How was your dinner?" Victoria asked, making the word sound suspicious. "It was nice," Matthew replied. "The food was excellent." "I see. Emma, before you retire, please review the social calendar I've left in your room. There are several events in the coming weeks where you'll need to appear as Matthew's wife." Emma nodded politely. "Good night, Victoria." In her room, Emma found a leather-bound calendar filled with charity galas, museum openings, and foundation dinners. Each entry included notes about appropriate attire and expected behavior. She was being programmed like a robot to perform as a proper Blackwood wife. The next morning, Samuel Carter arrived early for what Victoria called a family financial meeting. Emma was setting out coffee in Matthew's office when she overheard Carter speaking to Victoria in the hallway. "We need complete access to Matthew's separate accounts," Carter was saying. "The arrangement with the girl gives us legal standing, but Matthew still controls the daily operations." "Give it time," Victoria replied. "Emma's presence gives us leverage we didn't have before." Later, during the meeting, Emma served coffee while trying to appear invisible. She noticed how Carter kept steering the conversation toward Matthew's company. "As your financial advisor, I really should have access to all your passwords and security protocols," Carter said smoothly. "For emergency planning purposes, of course." "My company has its own security team," Matthew replied. "They handle emergency protocols. But as family financial manager, my company is separate from family finances, Samuel. You know that." That afternoon, Emma found Matthew in his office reviewing documents. "Matthew, I think Mr. Carter is trying to get access to your company information," she said hesitantly. Matthew looked up. "Samuel has always been interested in my business. Victoria trusts him completely." "Maybe too completely," Emma said. "I overheard them talking about using our marriage to get leverage over your company." Matthew frowned. "You're probably misunderstanding. Samuel has managed family finances for 20 years. Just be careful about giving him access to your business accounts," Emma insisted. Before Matthew could respond, Rebecca arrived unannounced, bringing the scent of expensive perfume and drama with her. "Matthew, darling, and the housekeeper wife." Rebecca's smile was sharp. "How domestic you two look." "What do you want, Becca?" Matthew asked tiredly. "Victoria asked me to help plan Emma's wardrobe for the Simmons Foundation dinner next week. We can't have her embarrassing the family." Rebecca looked Emma up and down. "We'll need to start from scratch, obviously." Emma remained silent, though her cheeks burned. "Emma doesn't need your help," Matthew said. "Oh, please. She has no idea how to behave in society. She'll be eaten alive." Rebecca turned to Emma. "No offense, dear. It's not your fault you weren't born into our world." After Rebecca left, Emma found herself walking through the garden to clear her head. To her surprise, she discovered Rebecca sitting alone on a stone bench crying quietly. "I'm sorry," Emma said, turning to leave. "Don't tell anyone you saw me like this," Rebecca said quickly, wiping her eyes. "I won't." Emma hesitated. "Are you okay?" Rebecca laughed bitterly. "Am I okay? What a common question. It's a normal thing to ask when someone is crying. Rebecca stared at Emma for a long moment. You think you're trapped? Try being born into this family. At least you had freedom before this. What do you mean? My marriage to Alexander was arranged when I was 22. Family business connections, Rebecca said flatly. Victoria orchestrated the whole thing, just like she did with you and Matthew. The next day, Emma visited her mother, who had been released from the hospital. Her small apartment seemed even smaller after weeks at the Blackwood mansion, but it felt like home. You look tired, sweetheart, her mother said, touching Emma's cheek. Is everything okay with your new position? Everything's fine, Mom. How are you feeling? Better than I have in years. Her mother smiled. That nice doctor. Wilson says I need to continue treatments twice a week, but I might actually have a normal life again. Emma swallowed hard. That's wonderful. Emma. Her mother took her hand. You're not telling me everything. What's really going on with the Blackwoods? Emma couldn't bring herself to tell the full truth. It's complicated, Mom, but I'm handling it. When Emma returned to the mansion, she found Matthew waiting for her. I have something to show you, he said, leading her to his office. Inside, blueprints and documents covered his desk. These are community outreach proposals for my company, Matthew explained. I'd like your input, especially on this one. He pointed to plans for a technology education center. You want my opinion? Emma asked, surprised. You understand these communities better than any consultant I could hire, Matthew said. Your perspective is valuable. For the next 2 hours they worked together, with Emma suggesting practical improvements to the proposals. She felt engaged and respected for the first time in years. Their work was interrupted when Victoria entered without knocking. Matthew, I need to discuss the Robinson dinner. Victoria stopped, seeing them working together. Emma, surely you have household duties to attend to. Emma is helping me with community outreach planning, Matthew explained. Her input is valuable. Victoria's face tightened. I see. Well, don't let me interrupt your collaboration. After Victoria left, Emma helped Matthew organize the documents. As she placed papers in a folder, she noticed what looked like financial statements on Victoria's desk in the connecting room. Curiosity made her look closer. The papers revealed the true extent of the family's financial troubles. The Blackwood fortune had been shrinking for years, with bad investments and market losses taking a severe toll. Only Matthew's company remained profitable. But what truly shocked Emma was a document outlining Phase 2 of Victoria's plan, using Emma and Matthew's marriage as legal access to gradually transfer control of Blackwood Innovations to the family trust, essentially taking Matthew's company from him. Emma quietly slipped the papers back where she found them. Standing outside Matthew's office door, she raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. Revealing Victoria's plan might save Matthew's company but could cost her mother's life-saving treatments if Victoria retaliated. Emma took a deep breath and knocked on Matthew's office door. Her heart was pounding. Whatever happened next would change everything. Come in, Matthew called. Emma entered with the documents clutched in her hands. Matthew, I need to show you something important. Matthew looked up from his computer. What is it? I found these papers on Victoria's desk. Emma placed the documents in front of him. It's a plan to take control of your company using our marriage as legal access. Matthew's face changed as he read the papers. First confusion, then disbelief, and finally anger. This can't be right, he said, his voice tight. Look at the signature at the bottom, Emma pointed. It's Victoria's and Samuel Carter's. Matthew wheeled himself to a locked cabinet in the corner of his office. He entered a code and pulled out a laptop. I keep secure copies of all family financial records, he explained. Let me check something. For 30 minutes, Emma waited as Matthew searched through files, his face growing darker with each discovery. You're right, he finally said. They've been planning this for months. The family finances are worse than I thought. Victoria and Samuel have been hiding their losses while positioning themselves to take over my company. I'm sorry, Emma said. I know she's your grandmother. Don't be sorry. You did the right thing telling me." Matthew looked at Emma with new respect. "You risked a lot to show me this. Victoria could cut off your mother's medical care if she found out." Emma nodded. "I know, but it wasn't right what they're doing to you." Matthew reached out and took her hand. "Thank you, Emma. I think you're the first person who's ever been honest with me about my family." That evening at dinner, Victoria made an announcement. "The Blackwood Foundation Gala will be held 6 weeks from now at the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel," she said. "It's time to properly introduce Emma to Boston society." "What exactly does that mean?" Matthew asked. "We'll present her as your wife, of course. I've already spoken to Boston Magazine about a feature story on your unlikely romance." Victoria smiled thinly. "A classic tale of a successful man giving a helping hand to someone less fortunate." Emma stared at her plate, her appetite gone. "That's not how we'll present our relationship," Matthew said firmly. Victoria's eyebrows rose. "I've already arranged it, Matthew." "Then unarrange it." Matthew's voice was stronger than Emma had ever heard. "Emma is my wife, not a charity project." After dinner, Samuel Carter cornered Emma in the hallway. "Mrs. Blackwood," he said smoothly, "I hope you're adjusting well to your new position." "I am, thank you," Emma replied, trying to move past him. Samuel blocked her path. "Family loyalty is very important to Victoria. It would be unfortunate if your mother's medical care was disrupted because of misplaced loyalties." The threat was clear. Emma felt a chill run through her. The next day, Emma met with Dr. Wilson at Boston Memorial Hospital. "Doctor Wilson, I need to ask you something important," Emma said. "If my mother's current funding was interrupted, what options would she have?" Dr. Wilson studied Emma's face. "Are you worried about the Blackwood support being withdrawn?" "I just need to know my options." "There's a new clinical trial starting next month that your mother would qualify for," Dr. Wilson said. "It would cover all her treatments at no cost. I was planning to recommend her for it anyway." Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. How soon could she start? "I could submit her application today, Doctor," Wilson said. "Is everything okay, Emma?" "It will be," Emma replied. "Thank you." When Emma returned to the mansion, she found Rebecca waiting in the garden. "We need to talk," Rebecca said, her usual sharpness missing. "About what?" "I've seen you and Matthew working together. Victoria has seen it too, and she's worried." Rebecca lowered her voice. "Be careful. When Victoria feels her control slipping, she becomes dangerous." Emma studied Rebecca's face. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I know what it's like to be a pawn in Victoria's games." Rebecca hesitated. "My husband Alexander is a corporate attorney. He might be able to help protect Matthew's company." Emma was stunned. "You want to help us?" "I want to help Matthew, and maybe myself too." Rebecca smiled slightly. "Victoria has controlled this family for too long." Later that afternoon, Matthew surprised Emma. "Cancel your plans for tomorrow," he said. "I want to show you something." "What plans?" "My schedule is controlled by your grandmother," Emma replied. Matthew smiled. "Not anymore. I told Victoria you'll be working with me on company projects from now on." The next morning, Samuel drove them to Cambridge. Matthew directed him to a modern glass building with Blackwood innovations displayed across the front. "Welcome to my company," Matthew said as they entered. Inside, the building was busy with people working at computers, having meetings in glass-walled rooms, and moving with purpose. No one stared at Matthew's wheelchair. "Mr. Blackwood, good morning," a young woman greeted them. "The executive team is ready in the conference room." "Thank you, Jennifer. This is my wife, Emma. She'll be joining us." In a large conference room, 8 people waited around a table. They stood when Matthew entered. "Everyone, this is Emma Blackwood, my wife," Matthew announced. "Emma is going to be leading our new community outreach division, focusing initially on programs in Dorchester." Emma looked at Matthew in surprise. He hadn't mentioned this plan. Emma has extensive knowledge of community needs and practical approaches to education and job training, Matthew continued. Her perspective will be invaluable as we expand our community investment. For the next 2 hours, Emma listened and occasionally contributed to discussions about technology education programs. The team treated her with respect, taking notes when she spoke. After the meeting, Matthew took Emma to his office on the top floor. It was large and modern with views of the Boston skyline. "What do you think?" he asked. "It's amazing," Emma said honestly. "Everyone here respects you so much." "They respect what I've built," Matthew corrected. "Now I want them to respect you too." "Why did you announce I'm leading a community outreach division? We never discussed that." "Because you'd be perfect for it," Matthew said, "and because it gives you a legitimate position that Victoria can't undermine." Emma felt tears forming in her eyes. "Thank you for believing in me." That evening, Victoria was waiting when they returned. "Where have you been all day?" she demanded. "At my company," Matthew replied. "Emma is now leading our community outreach division." Victoria's face tightened. "That wasn't discussed with me." "It didn't need to be. It's my company." "Matthew, be reasonable. Emma has no qualifications for such a position." "She has exactly the qualifications I need," Matthew said firmly. "And as CEO, that's my decision to make." Victoria turned to Emma. "I need to speak with my grandson privately." "Anything you have to say can be said in front of my wife," Matthew replied. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Very well. Samuel informs me that someone accessed secure family financial records yesterday, records that show private family matters." "You mean records that show how you and Samuel have been planning to take over my company?" Matthew asked. Victoria's face paled slightly. "Those documents are being misinterpreted." "I don't think so," Matthew said. "The plan is quite clear. Use my marriage to Emma to create legal access to my company assets, then gradually transfer control to the family trust, which you control. Everything I've done has been for this family's legacy," Victoria said coldly, "including finding you a suitable wife who knows her place." "Emma doesn't know her place because she doesn't have one," Matthew said. "She's my equal partner." After Victoria stormed out, Emma looked at Matthew. "That was incredible. I've never seen anyone stand up to her like that." "It felt good," Matthew admitted. "I've spent my whole life afraid of disappointing her, but now I'm more afraid of letting you down." The next day, Rebecca introduced them to her husband, Alexander Porter. Tall and serious, he reviewed the documents Emma had found. "This is quite concerning," Alexander said. "They're essentially plotting a hostile takeover using your marriage as the entry point." "Can they do that?" Emma asked. "Not if we prevent it," Alexander replied. "I can help create legal safeguards for both the company and your mother's care." Over the next several days, Emma and Matthew worked with Alexander to protect their interests. They established a legitimate professional identity for Emma through Matthew's company, created legal barriers to prevent Victoria from accessing company assets, and secured independent medical care for Emma's mother. Their work together brought them closer. Evenings were spent discussing both business and personal dreams, finding surprising common ground despite their different backgrounds. One night, Victoria approached Matthew alone. "I think you should know something about your wife," she said, handing him a folder. "Emma Johnson has a juvenile record, shoplifting when she was 15, not exactly the background we want for a Blackwood." Matthew took the folder without opening it. "Did you know I was arrested for public intoxication my first year at MIT? Or that I crashed my father's car into a tree when I was 16? He handed the folder back. "We all make mistakes, Victoria. The difference is most of us don't have people searching for ways to use them against us." As final preparations for the gala began, Samuel Carter grew increasingly desperate. Emma noticed him spending more time in Matthew's wing, always with excuses about family business. "He's trying to access your secure servers," Emma warned Matthew. "He was asking your assistant about passwords yesterday." Matthew nodded. My security team is tracking his attempts. We're gathering evidence. One afternoon, Matthew surprised Emma again. Get ready, we're going to Dorchester. In Dorchester, Matthew followed Emma's directions to her old neighborhood. She showed him run-down playgrounds and empty community buildings that could be renovated. This would be perfect for the community center, Emma said, pointing to an abandoned recreation building. It has the space we need, and it's centrally located for families. Consider it done, Matthew said. I'll have our legal team look into acquiring it next week. As they drove through the neighborhood, Emma introduced Matthew to community leaders she knew. They welcomed him warmly when they saw how Emma spoke to him. You've made quite an impression, Matthew observed as they headed back to the car. These are good people who just need resources and opportunities, Emma said. They've been fighting for this community for years. That night, Matthew and Emma stayed up late finalizing their strategy for the gala. They knew Victoria would try to control the narrative, presenting Emma as Matthew's charity project rather than his partner. We'll announce the Dorchester Community Initiative together, Matthew said. $10 million from Blackwood Innovations, with you as executive director. $10 million? Emma gasped. Matthew, that's too much. It's exactly right, Matthew insisted, and it establishes you as a legitimate business leader, not Victoria's idea of a proper wife. The morning before the gala, Emma awoke to find her phone flooded with messages from friends and even her mother. A Boston lifestyle magazine had just published a rags to riches profile of her, complete with unflattering details about her family and neighborhood, clearly meant to humiliate her at tonight's event. Emma's hands shook as she scrolled through the magazine article on her phone. The headline read, "From Maid to Millionaire, the Cinderella of Beacon Hill." The writer described her as rescued from poverty, and included childhood photos of her in front of her mother's rundown apartment building. Matthew knocked on her door. "Emma? Can I come in?" "Yes," she said, her voice barely audible. Matthew wheeled himself into the room. He had already seen the article. "I'm so sorry about this. They called my mother a struggling single parent who made questionable choices," Emma said. "They mentioned the time our electricity was shut off. How did they even get that information?" "Victoria," Matthew said grimly, "or Samuel on her orders." Emma wiped tears from her eyes. "Everyone at the gala tonight will have read this. They'll all be staring at me, thinking I'm just some poor girl you saved." Matthew moved closer and took her hand. "That's exactly what Victoria wants. She's trying to control our story to make you feel small and grateful." He squeezed her hand. "But we don't have to let her win. How do we fight this? The article is already published." "We address it directly," Matthew said. "Instead of hiding from it, we own the truth. Yes, you grew up with less money. Yes, you worked as a housekeeper. And now you're directing a $10 million community initiative because you're qualified and passionate about it." Emma's phone rang. It was her mother. "Emma? I just saw that awful magazine article," her mother said. "Are you okay?" "I'm handling it, Mom. Don't worry." "I'm coming to that gala tonight," her mother announced. "What?" "No, Mom, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I'm not going to hide while people talk about us like that. I raised you to stand tall, Emma Johnson." After ending the call, Emma looked at Matthew. "My mother wants to come to the gala." "Good," Matthew said. "Let's send a car for her." "But her health—" "I'll call Dr. Wilson. He can accompany her if he's available." An hour later, Dr. Wilson called back. "I'd be happy to escort your mother to the event, Emma. Her latest test results are excellent, and a few hours out won't harm her." "Thank you, Dr. Wilson." Meanwhile, Rebecca and Alexander arrived to help finalize their strategy for the evening. "The magazine article was a low blow," Rebecca said, pacing Matthew's office. "Classic Victoria." Alexander nodded. "But it might work in our favor. People will be watching Emma closely tonight, which means they'll also be watching when you make your announcement." "We've confirmed that key business reporters will be there," Rebecca added. Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, even Bloomberg. Victoria invited them to witness her triumph, but they'll witness her downfall instead. What about Samuel? Emma asked. He's been trying to get access to Matthew's business accounts. My security team caught him attempting to install spyware on my office computer yesterday, Matthew said. They've been tracking his digital movements for days. The evidence is damning. Alexander smiled. I've prepared legal documents to remove him from all company access immediately after the gala. He'll be locked out before midnight. As they discussed final details, Emma received a surprising call from Jasmine, her friend from Dorchester. Emma, is it true? Are you really announcing a community center for our neighborhood? How did you hear about that? Some man from Blackwood Innovations called the Community Center Board. Said we're all invited to the fancy gala tonight as your guests. Emma looked at Matthew, who smiled. I invited them. They should be part of this announcement. You never stop surprising me, Emma said after ending the call. The afternoon passed quickly with final preparations. At 4 o'clock, Victoria sent the family stylist to Emma's room. Mrs. Blackwood asked me to help prepare you for tonight, the stylist said, eyeing Emma's natural curly hair. I'm thinking we should straighten your hair and perhaps do a more sophisticated style. Emma stood her ground. Thank you, but I'll wear my hair naturally tonight. Mrs. Blackwood was very specific. And I'm being very specific now, Emma said firmly. My hair stays as it is. After the stylist left, a package arrived for Emma. Inside was a stunning emerald green gown with a note from Matthew. Thought you might want something that makes you feel like yourself. The designer assured me it will fit perfectly. The dress was elegant but not overstated, perfect for a business leader making an important announcement. Emma touched the fabric gently, moved by Matthew's thoughtfulness. At 6 o'clock, a car arrived with Emma's mother and Dr. Wilson. Her mother looked better than she had in years, dressed in a new blue suit. You look beautiful, Mom, Emma said, hugging her carefully. So do you, sweetheart. Her mother touched Emma's natural curls. I'm glad you didn't let them change you. Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs, her face tightening when she saw Emma's mother. I wasn't informed we would have extra guests, she said coldly. My mother and Dr. Wilson will be sitting at our table, Emma replied, her voice steady. And the Dorchester Community Board members will be at the Blackwood Innovations table, Matthew added, joining them. We've arranged everything. Victoria's lips pressed into a thin line. I see you've taken many liberties with my event, Matthew. Our event, Matthew corrected. The Blackwood Foundation Gala is a family function, and Emma and I are family. As they prepared to leave, Samuel Carter approached Matthew in the hallway. Matthew, before we go, I need your signature on these emergency protocol documents, Samuel said, presenting a folder. Just standard updates to the family financial security measures. Matthew took the folder but didn't open it. I'll have Alexander review these tomorrow. Tonight's not the time for business paperwork. Samuel's smile faltered. It's really quite urgent. Nothing is more urgent than supporting my wife tonight, Matthew said firmly, handing the folder back. They departed in separate cars, Victoria and Samuel in the first, followed by Matthew and Emma, with Rebecca and Alexander behind them. Emma's mother and Dr. Wilson took a fourth car. In their car, Emma looked down at her hands. I'm nervous. About the announcement? About all of it. The article, facing all those people, standing up to Victoria. Matthew took her hand. Emma, when I first met you, I thought you were just another person my grandmother was controlling. But you're the strongest person I've ever known. He looked into her eyes. You could have kept Victoria's plans secret to protect your mother. Instead, you risked everything to do what was right. I'm still scared, Emma admitted. So am I, Matthew said. I've never stood up to my grandmother like this before, but having you beside me makes me braver. As their car approached the brilliantly lit Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, Emma could see photographers and Boston's elite arriving in formal wear. Television crews set up near the entrance, and a red carpet stretched from the curb to the door. "The hotel looks so grand," Emma's mother said from the car behind them. "I've walked past it many times but never been inside." "Me neither," Emma admitted through their connected phone call. "At least we'll experience it together." When their car stopped at the entrance, Matthew squeezed Emma's hand. "Ready to show Boston who you really are?" Emma took a deep breath and nodded. A doorman opened their car door, and camera flashes immediately started popping. Emma stepped out first, then waited as Matthew transferred himself to his wheelchair. They posed briefly for photos, Matthew's hand resting on Emma's. Inside the grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over dozens of elegantly set tables. A small orchestra played soft music as guests mingled, champagne glasses in hand. Emma immediately noticed people looking their way, then whispering to each other. Victoria was already circulating among guests, clearly in her element. When she spotted Emma and Matthew entering, she quickly approached with a society couple in tow. "Here they are now," Victoria said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Matthew, Emma, I'd like you to meet Judge and Mrs. Hamilton." "Lovely to meet you," the judge's wife said, studying Emma with barely concealed curiosity. "I just read the most fascinating article about you this morning." "Yes, quite a remarkable story," Judge Hamilton added, "from housekeeper to married into one of Boston's oldest families. Quite a leap." "The article missed many important details," Matthew interjected smoothly. "Like Emma's leadership of our new Community Outreach Division. We're announcing a major initiative tonight." Victoria's smile tightened. "Let's not bore the Hamiltons with business talk. Emma, perhaps you could get everyone fresh drinks?" "Actually," Emma said, finding her voice, "I see my mother arriving. If you'll excuse us, I'd like to make sure she's settled at our table." As they moved away, Victoria called after them, "Don't forget, Matthew, your speech time is very limited. Just a brief thank you to the donors." At their table near the front, Emma introduced her mother to Rebecca and Alexander. "It's so nice to meet more of Emma's new family," her mother said warmly. "We're the rebellious faction," Rebecca replied with a wink. "The ones Victoria hasn't fully programmed yet." The Dorchester community leaders arrived soon after, led by Mrs. Jenkins, Emma's old neighbor who had watched her after school. They were seated at a nearby table with executives from Matthew's company. "Emma Johnson!" Mrs. Jenkins exclaimed, embracing her. "Look at you now! Your mother always said you were destined for big things." As dinner was served, Emma noticed Samuel Carter moving between tables, speaking quietly to various business associates. Occasionally, he glanced toward Matthew with a concerned expression. "He's getting nervous," Alexander observed. "My sources tell me he's been making calls all day trying to gain emergency access to Matthew's business servers." "My team has blocked every attempt," Matthew confirmed. "He's running out of options." At 8:30, Victoria approached the podium for her planned speech. The room quieted as she tapped the microphone. "Good evening, distinguished guests. As chairwoman of the Blackwood Foundation, I welcome you to our annual gala." Emma took a deep breath as Victoria began speaking about the family's charitable work and their commitment to lifting up those less fortunate. Matthew reached for her hand under the table and held it tightly. "I've been blessed to lead this family through many generations of service," Victoria continued. "And recently, we've welcomed a new member who exemplifies our commitment to embracing those from all walks of life." Victoria gestured toward Emma. "My grandson Matthew has shown tremendous heart in bringing Emma into our family, proving that the Blackwoods not only donate to worthy causes, we live our values by extending a helping hand to those who need it most." Whispers circulated through the room as all eyes turned to Emma. Victoria smiled triumphantly, believing she had established the narrative exactly as she wanted it. Matthew leaned close to Emma's ear. "It's time to show them who you really are," he whispered. "Are you ready?" Emma nodded, her heart pounding. Matthew began moving his wheelchair toward the stage as Victoria continued her speech. "And now, I'd like to introduce our generous donors who have made this year's charitable initiatives possible," Victoria was saying. The crowd murmured in surprise as Matthew approached the podium. Victoria paused, her smile faltering slightly. "Matthew, dear, your speech comes later in the program," she said quietly. "I'd like to say a few words now, grandmother," Matthew replied, his voice firm but polite. Victoria hesitated, then stepped aside with obvious reluctance. "Of course, ladies and gentlemen, my grandson, Matthew Blackwood." The audience applauded politely as Matthew positioned himself at the microphone. Emma sat up straighter, her mother squeezing her hand for support. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Matthew began. "For years, the Blackwood name has been associated with wealth, tradition, and charitable giving. Most of you know me as Victoria's grandson, the one in the wheelchair who runs his tech company." A few uncomfortable chuckles rippled through the crowd. What many of you don't know is that the Blackwood family fortune has been crumbling for years. Bad investments, market crashes, and poor management have drained the family resources. Matthew's voice grew stronger. "The only profitable enterprise associated with the Blackwood name is my company, Blackwood Innovations, which I built from nothing while my family dismissed it as a hobby." Victoria stepped forward. "Matthew, this is hardly the venue." "It's exactly the venue," Matthew continued. "For years, I've allowed this family to control my narrative. Tonight, that ends." The ballroom fell completely silent. Business reporters at the back were furiously taking notes. 3 months ago, my grandmother arranged my marriage to Emma, who worked as our housekeeper. Matthew looked directly at Emma. "The plan was simple: marry Emma to keep my fortune under family control, using the marriage to gain legal access to my company assets." Gasps and whispers filled the room. Victoria's face had gone pale. "What my grandmother didn't count on was that Emma would show me the truth about my family's schemes, or that in the process we would discover we actually make a good team." Emma's mother squeezed her hand again, her eyes filled with questions. "Emma grew up in Dorchester," Matthew continued. "She worked as our housekeeper to pay for her mother's medical treatments. She has more integrity and strength than anyone I've ever met." Matthew's voice softened. "I was forced into this marriage just like Emma was, but standing here tonight, I can honestly say it might be the best thing that ever happened to me." He turned to face Victoria directly. "Grandmother, I love you. You raised me after my parents died, but I won't let you control my company or my life anymore." Matthew returned his attention to the audience. "Tonight, I'm announcing that Blackwood Innovations is launching a $10 million community initiative in Dorchester with Emma Johnson Blackwood as executive director." More whispers swept through the crowd. Emma could feel hundreds of eyes on her. "This isn't charity," Matthew emphasized. "It's smart business and good community investment, led by someone who truly understands what that community needs." Victoria stepped forward again, her face now ashen. "Matthew, you can't possibly—" "I already have," Matthew interrupted. "The papers were signed yesterday." Victoria grabbed the podium for support. "You had no right." "I had every right. It's my company, not the family's." Victoria opened her mouth to speak again, but no words came out. Her hand flew to her chest and she suddenly crumpled to the floor. "Grandmother!" Matthew exclaimed, moving toward her. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Dr. Wilson rushed to Victoria's side with Emma close behind. "Give her space," Dr. Wilson commanded, kneeling beside Victoria. "Someone call 911. Emma's mother joined them, her nursing experience evident in her calm movements. "Her pulse is rapid but strong," she reported to Dr. Wilson. Victoria's eyes fluttered open, looking confused. "What happened?" she whispered. "Stay still, Mrs. Blackwood," Dr. Wilson advised. "Help is coming." Within minutes, paramedics arrived and carefully transferred Victoria to a stretcher. As they wheeled her toward the exit, she reached for Matthew's hand. "Don't leave me," she said, suddenly looking much older and more vulnerable. "I'll be right behind you," Matthew promised, his anger replaced by concern. In the commotion, Emma noticed Samuel Carter slipping away from the crowd, his phone in his hand. Something about his urgent movements caught her attention. "Rebecca," Emma said quietly. "Samuel is acting strange." Rebecca followed Emma's gaze. "He's making his move while everyone's distracted." "What do you mean?" "Emergency protocols," Alexander explained, joining them. "If a family principal is incapacitated, certain financial safeguards can be temporarily overridden. Samuel is trying to use Victoria's collapse to access Matthew's accounts." Alexander quickly moved through the crowd, following Samuel. Emma and Rebecca exchanged glances, then followed. They found Samuel in a small office off the main hallway, hunched over his laptop. "Just processing emergency procedures," Samuel explained smoothly when he noticed them. "Standard protocol when a family member has a medical emergency." Alexander stepped forward. "Those protocols don't apply to Matthew's separate business accounts, Samuel, you know that." "I'm simply securing family assets during a crisis," Samuel insisted, continuing to type. "Step away from the computer, Samuel," came Matthew's voice from the doorway. He had followed them after ensuring Victoria was safely in the ambulance. Samuel's fingers froze over the keyboard. "Matthew, I was just trying to use my grandmother's medical emergency to steal control of my company," Matthew finished. "My security team just alerted me to multiple unauthorized access attempts from your device." "That's absurd," Samuel protested. "We have the digital evidence," Alexander said. "Every attempt was logged and traced back to your personal access codes." Matthew wheeled closer. "It's over, Samuel. You're fired, effective immediately. Hotel security is waiting to escort you out." Samuel's confident facade crumbled. "Victoria approved everything I did. The family needs your company's resources. Without them, the Blackwood legacy is finished." "That's not my problem," Matthew said firmly. "My company is not a piggy bank for the family to raid." Two security officers appeared in the doorway. Samuel looked around desperately, then grabbed his laptop and slowly walked out, escorted by the officers. Back in the ballroom, guests were still buzzing about the dramatic events. Some were leaving, while others clustered in small groups, speculating about what had happened. Emma stood in the center of the room, suddenly aware that many people were watching her, waiting for her reaction to Matthew's public declaration. Her mother approached, concern on her face. "Emma, is what Matthew said true? Did Victoria force you to marry him?" Emma nodded slowly. "Yes. She offered to pay for your medical treatments if I married Matthew. I didn't see any other choice at the time." "Oh, sweetheart," her mother said, tears filling her eyes. "You shouldn't have sacrificed yourself for me." "It started as a sacrifice," Emma admitted, "but it's become something different." She looked toward Matthew, who was speaking with Alexander about arrangements for Victoria. Mrs. Jenkins and the other community leaders from Dorchester approached Emma. "$10 million for our neighborhood?" Mrs. Jenkins asked. "Is that for real?" "Yes," Emma confirmed. "We're going to renovate the old recreation center, create after-school programs, job training, everything we've talked about for years." "And you'll be running it?" another board member asked. "As executive director, yes." Mrs. Jenkins smiled proudly. "I always knew you were meant for big things, Emma, but I never imagined this big." As the crowd thinned, reporters began approaching Emma, asking for comments about the evening's events and her relationship with Matthew. Rebecca stepped in, acting as a buffer. "Emma will be making an official statement tomorrow," Rebecca told them. "Tonight, the family is focused on Mrs. Blackwood's health." Finally, Matthew returned to Emma's side. The remaining guests watched them curiously, the room now much quieter than before. "Victoria is stable," Matthew told Emma. "The doctors think it was a mild stroke brought on by stress. She's asking for you." "For me?" Emma was surprised. "Yes. Will you come to the hospital with me?" Emma nodded. As they prepared to leave, she suddenly realized how public Matthew's declaration had been. He had essentially told all of Boston society that their marriage had started as a business arrangement. "Matthew," she said quietly as they waited for their car, "you told everyone the truth about our marriage." "Yes," Matthew replied. "I'm tired of living with lies." "What happens now?" Emma asked. "With us, I mean." Matthew took her hand. "That depends on how you feel. I meant what I said in there. Being forced to marry you might be the best thing that ever happened to me." Before Emma could respond, their car arrived. As they drove toward Massachusetts General Hospital, Emma found herself at a crossroads. Their marriage had begun as a contract, a business arrangement neither of them wanted. But somewhere along the way, it had become something real, at least for her. Now she needed to decide if she wanted to continue this journey with Matthew, not because of a contract, but because of genuine feelings that had grown despite the unusual beginning. Massachusetts General Hospital glowed against the night sky as their car pulled up to the emergency entrance. Emma stared at the building's many windows, her mind still processing Matthew's words from the car. "Are you ready?" Matthew asked as the driver opened the door. Emma nodded, helping Matthew transfer to his wheelchair. Inside, hospital staff recognized them immediately, the wealthy tech CEO and his new wife who had just become the talk of Boston. "Mr. Blackwood," a nurse greeted them. "Your grandmother is in the private wing, room 312. Dr. Harris is with her now." As they rode the elevator, Emma's phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends who had seen news about the gala drama. Already, video clips of Matthew's speech were circulating online. Victoria's room was large and private, with medical equipment beeping softly. The elderly woman looked small in the hospital bed, her usual commanding presence diminished. A doctor stood checking her vital signs. "Ah, Mr. Blackwood," the doctor said, extending his hand. "I'm Dr. Harris. Your grandmother experienced a mild stroke likely triggered by extreme stress. Her condition is stable, but she'll need to remain here for observation." "Thank you, doctor," Matthew replied. "This is my wife, Emma." Dr. Harris nodded politely to Emma. "Mrs. Blackwood has been asking for both of you." When the doctor left, Victoria opened her eyes. "Matthew," she said weakly, "come closer." Matthew wheeled to her bedside. "How are you feeling, grandmother?" "Like someone who just watched her entire life's work collapse in public," Victoria replied, her voice thin but still carrying a hint of her usual sharpness. "That's not what happened," Matthew said gently. Victoria's eyes moved to Emma, who stood uncertainly at the foot of the bed. "You," she said. "Come here." Emma approached slowly, expecting anger or accusations. Instead, Victoria studied her face carefully. "You told him everything," Victoria said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Emma admitted. "I found the documents about taking control of his company." Victoria closed her eyes briefly. "I underestimated you. I thought you would be grateful and obedient." "I'm grateful for my mother's medical care," Emma said, "but I couldn't let you use our marriage to steal Matthew's company." "Steal?" Victoria's eyes flashed. "Everything I've done has been to preserve the Blackwood legacy, 4 generations of history and influence." "At my expense," Matthew interjected. "And Emma's." Victoria turned back to him. "You humiliated me tonight in front of everyone who matters in Boston. You humiliated yourself, grandmother, by treating people as pawns in your games." A nurse entered to check Victoria's vital signs, and they fell silent. When they were alone again, Victoria looked more tired than angry. "What happens now?" she asked. "You'll recover here," Matthew said. "Then we'll need to have serious discussions about family finances and control." Victoria looked at Emma again. "And you? Are you planning to divorce my grandson now that your mother's medical care is secured through other means?" The directness of the question surprised Emma. I don't know yet, she answered honestly. Victoria nodded slightly. At least you're not a liar. She closed her eyes. I'm tired now. Outside Victoria's room, Matthew and Emma found Rebecca and Alexander waiting. How is she? Rebecca asked. Stable, Matthew replied, and still very much herself despite everything. Alexander stepped forward. We've secured all the company assets. Samuel has been completely locked out of all systems, and security is watching for any further attempts at access. Thank you, Matthew said. And the media situation? Exploding, Rebecca admitted. You're trending everywhere. Tech billionaire exposes family scheme is the headline on Boston Globe's website. Emma's phone rang, her mother calling from the car taking her home from the gala. Emma, are you okay? Everyone's talking about what happened. I'm fine, Mom. We're at the hospital with Victoria. Dr. Wilson told me about her condition. A mild stroke, he said. Yes, she's stable. Emma, her mother said carefully, why didn't you tell me the truth about your marriage? Emma sighed. I didn't want you to worry, or to refuse treatment because of how it was being paid for. We need to talk about this properly, her mother said, but not tonight. You have enough to handle right now. After ending the call, Emma noticed reporters gathering outside the hospital entrance, cameras ready. They're waiting for us, she told Matthew. We can leave through the staff exit, he suggested. Rebecca can have a car meet us there. But as they headed toward the elevator, Emma stopped. No? Matthew looked confused. I'm tired of hiding and sneaking around, Emma said firmly. If we leave through the back, it looks like we're ashamed or guilty. I'm not ashamed anymore. Matthew studied her face, then smiled. You're right. Let's face them together. As they approached the hospital's main entrance, Rebecca hurried alongside them. If you're really doing this, at least let me prep you. Short statements only. No details about Victoria's condition. Refer business questions to the company's official channels. Outside, camera flashes erupted as reporters spotted them. Microphones were thrust forward. Mr. Blackwood, is it true your marriage was arranged to secure your company assets? Emma, did you know you were being used to control Matthew's fortune? Is Victoria Blackwood expected to recover? Matthew held up his hand, and the questions paused momentarily. My grandmother experienced a medical emergency this evening. She is receiving excellent care and we expect a full recovery. That is our primary concern right now. Emma stepped forward. As for our marriage, yes, it began under unusual circumstances, but what matters is what we choose to do now, moving forward. Matthew reached for Emma's hand and she took it. We'll be making a full statement about the Dorchester Community Initiative tomorrow at Blackwood Innovations headquarters, Matthew added. Tonight, we're focusing on family. They moved toward their waiting car, ignoring further questions. Inside the vehicle, Matthew turned to Emma. Thank you, he said, for standing with me out there. It felt good to tell the truth, Emma replied. As they drove through Boston's quiet streets, Matthew looked thoughtful. You didn't answer Victoria's question about divorce. No, I didn't. Because you don't know or because you didn't want to say in front of her? Emma turned to face him. When we got married, we were both trapped by Victoria's manipulation. Neither of us had a real choice. And now? Now we do have a choice, Emma said, and that changes everything. What do you want, Emma? Truly want? Emma thought carefully before answering. I want to build the community center. I want my mother to be healthy. I want to never feel trapped again. She paused. And I want to see where this relationship between us might go without Victoria's schemes hanging over us. Matthew's face broke into a smile. I want all those things too. Even the part about us? Emma asked. Especially that part, Matthew said. When I stood on that stage tonight, I realized something important. What began as my grandmother's manipulation has become the most honest relationship I've ever had. The car pulled up to the Blackwood estate, its windows dark except for the security lights. As they entered, Emma felt strange walking into the mansion that had once been her workplace, then her prison, and now, what? A home? Not yet. Perhaps not ever in this particular house. "I can't stay here," Emma said suddenly. "Not anymore. Not after everything that happened tonight." Matthew nodded. "I understand. I've been thinking the same thing. This house has too much of Victoria's influence. Too many bad memories. Where would we go?" "I have an apartment in Cambridge near my company headquarters. It's fully accessible, modern. We could stay there while looking for something more permanent." "I'd like that," Emma said. "A fresh start. We can leave tonight if you want. Just pack what you need for now." Emma felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. Yes, tonight. They packed quickly, clothes, personal items, Emma's few treasured possessions. As Emma zipped her suitcase, she looked around the bedroom that had never really felt like hers. "Ready?" Matthew asked from the doorway. "More than ready," Emma replied. In Matthew's Cambridge apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city lights. The space was open, modern, and completely different from the Blackwood mansion. "What do you think?" Matthew asked as Emma explored. "It feels like freedom," she said honestly. "There are 2 bedrooms," Matthew pointed out. "You can have whichever one you prefer." Emma appreciated that he wasn't assuming anything about their relationship. They were starting fresh, making their own choices. "Thank you," she said, "for everything you did tonight, for standing up to your grandmother, for the community center." "I should be thanking you," Matthew replied. "Without you, I might never have found the courage to break free from Victoria's control." Emma moved to the window, looking out at the city. "Tomorrow will be crazy. The press, the announcement, dealing with the fallout. We'll face it together," Matthew said, joining her at the window. "Partners for real this time." Emma turned to him. "Partners?" she agreed. As the city lights glimmered around them, Emma realized that for the first time since signing those marriage papers, she was exactly where she wanted to be, with exactly who she wanted to be with. Their future was uncertain, but at least now it was truly theirs to choose. Matthew reached for her hand. "New beginning?" he asked. Emma nodded, intertwining her fingers with his. "New beginning." Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Matthew's Cambridge apartment. Emma woke early, momentarily confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back. The gala, Matthew's speech, Victoria's collapse, and their decision to leave the Blackwood estate. She found Matthew already awake in the kitchen, his wheelchair pulled up to a small table where he was reading news on his tablet. "Good morning," she said, pouring herself a cup of coffee from the pot he had made. "Morning," he replied, looking up. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I expected," Emma admitted. "How bad is it?" She gestured toward his tablet. Matthew turned the screen so she could see the headlines. "Blackwood family drama erupts at charity gala, and tech billionaire reveals arranged marriage scheme." "It's everywhere," Matthew said. "My phone has been ringing since 5 this morning." Emma sat across from him. "What about Victoria? Any updates?" "The hospital called. She's stable and resting. They're running more tests today." They spent the next hour planning their day. First, they would visit Victoria at the hospital. Then they needed to meet with Blackwood Innovations executives to discuss the official announcement of the Dorchester Community Initiative. Rebecca texted that reporters are camped outside both the hospital and the company headquarters, Matthew said. "Are you ready for that?" Emma took a deep breath. "Yes. No more hiding." At Massachusetts General Hospital, they found Victoria awake and alert, though noticeably weaker than before. A nurse was checking her vital signs when they entered. "Your blood pressure is improving, Mrs. Blackwood," the nurse said. "Dr. Harris will be in shortly to discuss your test results." When the nurse left, Victoria looked at them with clear eyes. "So you abandoned the family home?" she said without preamble. "We needed a fresh start," Matthew replied. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone who suffered a stroke while her grandson publicly dismantled everything she's built," Victoria said dryly. "But the doctors say I'll live." Emma approached the bed. "I'm glad you're recovering." Victoria studied Emma's face. "Are you?" "That would be surprisingly generous, considering everything." "I don't wish you harm," Emma said simply. "I just wanted freedom to make my own choices." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "I've had time to think last night. Perhaps I was too controlling." Matthew looked shocked at this admission. "Perhaps?" "Don't push it, Matthew," Victoria warned, though without her usual fire. "I'm still processing everything." Dr. Harris entered, clipboard in hand. "Good morning. I have your test results, Mrs. Blackwood." The doctor confirmed that Victoria had experienced a mild stroke triggered by extreme stress. With medication and rest, he expected a full recovery, though she would need to make lifestyle changes. "You'll need to avoid stressful situations," Dr. Harris emphasized, "and delegate more of your responsibilities to others." Victoria frowned. "Impossible. The family business will continue without your direct oversight," Matthew interrupted firmly. "We've already begun restructuring the family finances." "Without consulting me?" Victoria's voice rose slightly. "The doctor just said to avoid stress," Emma reminded her gently. Victoria looked between them, then sighed. "I suppose I have little choice now." After leaving the hospital, they headed to Blackwood Innovations headquarters. As predicted, reporters swarmed their car when they arrived. Inside, Rebecca and Alexander were waiting with the executive team. The conference room fell silent when Emma and Matthew entered. "Everyone," Matthew announced, "I want to formally introduce Emma Blackwood, the new director of our Community Outreach Division. As most of you now know, our marriage began under unusual circumstances, but we're moving forward together as true partners." Emma felt a surge of gratitude as the team applauded politely. Matthew was publicly acknowledging her as an equal, not a charity case. The meeting focused on finalizing details of the Dorchester Community Initiative. Emma presented her vision for transforming the abandoned recreation center into a modern facility with educational programs, job training, and community resources. "We'll start renovation next month," she explained. "Our goal is to open the center in 6 months." After the meeting, Alexander updated them on Samuel Carter's situation. "We've filed legal complaints based on the evidence of his attempted unauthorized access," Alexander explained. "The district attorney is reviewing potential charges for financial fraud." "Has he said anything?" Matthew asked. "Only that he was acting on Victoria's instructions," Alexander replied. "He's trying to shift all blame to her." Later that afternoon, Emma's mother visited them at the Cambridge apartment. She had seen the news coverage and had questions that couldn't wait. "Why didn't you tell me the truth about your marriage?" she asked Emma directly. "I was afraid you wouldn't accept treatment if you knew how it was being paid for," Emma admitted. "I didn't want to lose you, Mom." Her mother took Emma's hands. "I understand why you did it, but no treatment is worth your happiness." "It turned out differently than I expected," Emma said, glancing at Matthew. "I can see that," her mother observed. "The way you look at each other now isn't how arranged marriage partners look at each other." Matthew smiled. "Your daughter changed everything for me, Mrs. Johnson. She helped me find courage I didn't know I had." "Call me Diane," Emma's mother replied warmly. "And take care of each other. Just remember, you can forgive without forgetting. That goes for both of you, with Victoria." The following week brought non-stop activity. Matthew worked with Alexander to restructure the family finances, ensuring Victoria would be well cared for while removing her control over business decisions. Emma divided her time between planning the community center and dealing with the media attention. The Boston social scene buzzed with gossip about the Blackwood drama. Some society matrons sided with Victoria, calling Matthew ungrateful and Emma an opportunist. Others, particularly younger people, praised them for standing up against manipulation and control. Emma received both hateful messages and surprising support. Her friend Jasmine organized a group of Dorchester residents to publicly back the community center project, showing Boston that Emma hadn't forgotten where she came from. 10 days after the gala, Victoria was released from the hospital. She refused to return to the empty Blackwood estate, instead moving temporarily into a luxury suite at the Four Seasons Hotel. "The house feels too big now," she admitted when Matthew visited her. "Too many echoes." "You could downsize," Matthew suggested. "The house on Beacon Street is still in the family portfolio. It's smaller but still elegant." Victoria considered this. "Perhaps. What about you and Emma? Will you remain in Cambridge?" "We're looking at houses," Matthew replied. "Something modern, fully accessible, with space for Emma's mother to visit comfortably." Victoria nodded slowly. "And your marriage? Is it real now, or still just an arrangement?" "It's becoming real," Matthew said honestly. "We're taking our time getting to know each other properly." "I see." Victoria looked out the window for a long moment. "I was wrong about her. I thought she was just after money and status." Emma never cared about either of those things. "No, she didn't," Victoria agreed. "She only wanted to save her mother. I used that against her." She turned back to Matthew. "I won't apologize for wanting to protect the family legacy. But my methods, perhaps they were too extreme." It wasn't quite an apology, but Matthew recognized it as the closest Victoria would likely come. "Thank you for acknowledging that." 2 weeks later, Emma visited Victoria alone. She found the older woman seated by the window of her hotel suite, looking smaller and frailer than before. "Emma," Victoria greeted her, "this is unexpected." "I wanted to talk to you directly," Emma said, sitting across from her. "About the future." "Your future with my grandson, I presume?" "Yes. Matthew has asked me if I want to continue our marriage. For real this time, not as an arrangement." Victoria studied her. "And what did you say?" "I haven't given him my answer yet. I wanted to speak with you first." "Why? You certainly don't need my approval anymore." "No, I don't," Emma agreed. "But I want you to know that I care about Matthew. What started as an arrangement has become something meaningful to me." Victoria was silent for a moment. "I believed you would never be accepted in Boston society. That was part of my calculation. You would be isolated, dependent on the family." "You were partly right," Emma said. "Some people will never accept me, but I don't need everyone's approval to be happy." "No, I suppose you don't." Victoria straightened in her chair. "For what it's worth, I believe Matthew truly cares for you. I've never seen him stand up for anyone the way he stood up for you." This was as close to a blessing as Emma would get from Victoria. "Thank you for saying that." That evening, Emma found Matthew in their Cambridge apartment, working on his laptop. "I saw Victoria today," she told him, sitting on the couch beside his wheelchair. "How did that go?" he asked, setting his work aside. "Better than I expected. She actually acknowledged that you care about me." Matthew smiled. "High praise from Victoria." He took Emma's hand. "Have you thought more about what we discussed? About our future?" Emma nodded. "I have. When we got married, neither of us had a choice. Now we do." "And what do you choose?" Matthew asked softly. "I choose to stay," Emma said. "Not because of a contract or obligation, but because I want to see where this relationship can go. I care about you, Matthew, the real you I've gotten to know these past months." Matthew's face lit up with joy. "I was hoping you'd say that." They spent the rest of the evening planning their future together. A new house, the community center opening, a proper wedding ceremony that would be their choice, not Victoria's arrangement. The next day, as Emma packed the last of her things from the room she'd been using, she found the original marriage contract at the bottom of her suitcase. She held the document that had once represented her captivity, realizing it now meant nothing compared to the choice she was freely making. Emma didn't tear up the contract or burn it dramatically. Instead, she simply placed it in a folder and filed it away, part of their history, but no longer defining their future. 6 months passed quickly, filled with new beginnings. The morning of the Dorchester Community Center's grand opening arrived with perfect spring weather. Emma stood in front of the renovated building, hardly believing the transformation from the abandoned recreation center she had shown Matthew just months ago. "Are you ready to cut the ribbon?" Matthew asked, wheeling up beside her. Emma smiled. "I've been ready for this my whole life." The once crumbling structure now gleamed with fresh paint and new windows. Inside, classrooms contained new computers, art supplies, and educational materials. A job training center occupied the east wing, while community meeting spaces filled the west side. Crowds gathered in front of the building for the opening ceremony. Local families, community leaders, business partners, and even some of Boston's elite had come to witness the occasion. Emma spotted her mother directing volunteers near the refreshment tables, looking healthier than she had in years. "Mom looks amazing," Emma said to Matthew. "The transplant really changed everything." "She's a natural administrator," Matthew agreed. "Hiring her to run the center's operations was one of our best decisions." 3 months earlier, Emma's mother had received a successful kidney transplant after moving up the waiting list. Her recovery had been swift, and she had eagerly accepted the position as the center's administrative director. Mrs. Jenkins approached them beaming with pride. "Emma, this place is even better than we dreamed. The children can't wait to start programs on Monday." "None of this would have happened without your help," Emma told her. "Your community organizing got everyone behind this project." At exactly 10 o'clock, the ceremony began. Emma stepped up to the microphone with Matthew beside her. "Welcome to the opening of the Dorchester Community Center," she announced to applause. "This center belongs to all of us, a place where children can learn, where adults can gain new skills, and where our community can grow stronger together." Emma introduced key people who had made the center possible, including the local community board, Blackwood Innovations executives, and her mother. "And most importantly," Emma said, looking at Matthew, "I want to thank my husband, whose vision and support made this dream a reality." Matthew shook his head and took the microphone. "The vision was always Emma's. I just provided resources for what she already knew this community needed." After cutting the ribbon, they led tours through the building. Children ran excitedly from room to room, exploring the art studio, computer lab, and game areas. Parents filled out registration forms for after-school programs and adult education classes. In the midst of the celebration, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Rebecca and Alexander emerged first, followed by Victoria Blackwood walking slowly with the aid of a cane. "Victoria's here," Matthew said with surprise. "I didn't think she would come." Emma nodded. "I invited her, but she never responded." They greeted Rebecca and Alexander warmly. The couple had become their closest friends and allies during the past months. Alexander had recently joined Blackwood Innovations as chief legal counsel, while Rebecca had started her own event planning business, free from family control. Victoria approached slowly, her posture still proud despite her physical weakness. The stroke had left her with a slight limp and occasional word-finding difficulties, but her mind remained sharp. "Grandmother," Matthew said, wheeling forward to meet her, "I'm glad you came." "I wanted to see this place Emma has talked about so much," Victoria replied. She looked around at the busy center. "It's impressive." Emma joined them. "Thank you for coming, Victoria. Would you like a tour?" Victoria nodded. "I would." As Emma guided Victoria through the center, she noticed the older woman watching the children with an expression Emma had never seen before. Something close to wistfulness. "These children," Victoria said, pausing near a group playing chess, "they have opportunities I never imagined providing in my charitable work." "How so?" Emma asked. Our foundation always donated money from a distance, Victoria explained. We never really saw the people we were supposedly helping. She gestured toward a teenage girl teaching younger children how to use a computer. That girl might run a technology company someday. Like Matthew, Emma said. Yes. Victoria's eyes met Emma's. I was wrong about many things, Emma. Not everything, but many things. Coming from Victoria, this was a profound admission. Emma simply nodded in acknowledgement. Later that afternoon, as the opening celebration continued, Emma found Matthew in his office at the center. He had been watching security camera footage of the day's events. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the screen showing Victoria sitting with a group of children who were showing her their artwork. "I've never seen her like this." Emma smiled. "People can change, Matthew. Even Victoria. Even me," Matthew added. 6 months ago, I couldn't stand up to her. Now we're building something that matters." Emma sat on the desk beside him. "We've all changed." That evening, they hosted a small dinner at their new home, a modern, accessible house in a quiet Cambridge neighborhood. Rebecca and Alexander joined them, along with Emma's mother and Dr. Wilson, who had been dating casually for the past 2 months. "To new beginnings," Dr. Wilson toasted, raising his glass. "And to unlikely partnerships," Rebecca added, smiling at Emma. Their friendship had grown steadily, united initially by their shared experience of Victoria's manipulation. Over dinner, they discussed plans for expanding the community center's programs. Emma's mother shared stories of families already benefiting from the resources. "A mother of 3 told me she can finally finish her degree because we provide after-school care," she said. "That's 3 children who will grow up seeing their mother achieve her dreams." After their guests left, Emma and Matthew sat in their living room, enjoying the quiet. "I never imagined my life would look like this," Emma admitted. "When I signed those marriage papers, I thought I was trading my freedom for my mother's life." "And now?" Matthew asked. "Now I have more freedom than I ever expected. To build something meaningful, to help others, to choose my own path." She reached for his hand. "To love someone because I want to, not because I have to." 1 year after the Dorchester Community Center opened its doors, they held an anniversary celebration. The center had exceeded all expectations, serving hundreds of families and becoming a model for similar programs across Massachusetts. Children from the center's drama program performed a play they had written themselves, telling a story about a neighborhood that came together to solve its problems. The simple set, created in the art program, showed buildings transforming from broken to beautiful. After the performance, Matthew addressed the audience. "1 year ago, we opened these doors not knowing exactly what would happen. We just knew this community deserved resources and opportunities." Emma joined him at the microphone. "What we've built here goes beyond buildings and programs. We've created connections between people who might never have met otherwise." Matthew looked at Emma. "We found love in the most unexpected place. Sometimes the worst circumstances lead to the best outcomes when you choose to see people for who they truly are." Victoria, seated in the front row, nodded slightly at his words. Though she still lived independently in the smaller Beacon Street house, she visited the center occasionally, funding a scholarship program in her own name. After the celebration, Emma and Matthew walked through the quiet center, enjoying the evidence of the day's activities. Artwork on the walls, books left open on tables, computer screens showing half-finished projects. "I was thinking," Matthew said, stopping near the community board filled with success stories, "maybe it's time for that real wedding we talked about." Emma smiled. "The one where we actually choose to marry each other?" "Exactly. Something small with people we care about. Nothing like Victoria's courthouse arrangement." "I'd like that," Emma said. "And maybe after that—" "After that?" Matthew prompted. "Maybe we could think about expanding our family," Emma suggested. "This place has made me realize how much I love working with children." Matthew's face lit up. "I'd love that too. Our own family, built on choice and love instead of obligation. As they prepared to leave, Emma paused at the doorway, looking back at the center that had grown from her childhood dream. "We built something real here," she said. "Not just the center, but us." Matthew took her hand. "We started with a contract designed to keep us apart, but ended up building something neither of us could have imagined. A love that's stronger because we had to fight for it." Emma leaned down to kiss him, no longer the housekeeper or the arranged wife, but a woman who had found her voice, her purpose, and her love on her own terms. Outside, the lights of Boston twinkled in the distance. Their journey had taken them from a mansion built on old money and rigid traditions to this place of new possibilities. The path hadn't been easy, but as they headed home together, both knew they wouldn't change a single step that had brought them here. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.